Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Tom Christie coming to you from the Ohio Decoy Show in Independence, Ohio, and the competitions are underway. One of the categories that was judged this morning was the palm frond category, and I had an entry that I was very fortunate to win Best of Show in the decorative category of the palm frond carvings this morning. And I put together a little video on the creation of that piece. It's a Northern Flicker, a yellow shafted flicker. And I just thought it might be worth sharing kind of the inspiration of that carving and then how it was put together and created. And I hope it's helpful and maybe encouraging to some of you out there that have thought about trying the palm frond category.
The inspiration for this piece was a northern flicker that actually flew into the back window of our home and passed away. And it was just so beautiful that I took this reference photo before disposing of the bird, but it became the inspiration for, hey, I want to do a carving of that bird at some point down the road. So the palm frond seemed like a good place to honor that northern flicker, and you can see the body of the palm frond there, and I decided to keep the shape of the frond because that's important, and just cut out and created some air streams coming back from the wings. You can see the cutouts there. That was the concept, and then a short piece of tupelo for the head that would be fastened to the front of the palm frond body and form the overall carving. You can see I've kind of penciled in the wings there, the tail, and then the airstreams behind. I wanted to try to portray this bird in a speeding position, flying, and so I've relieved a little of the palm frond shell to form the wingtips and the tail. You can see there, and then sanded the rest of the thing smooth. Underneath, I removed a lot of the palm frond to form the body and the tail of the bird and the underside of the wings, as you can see here. And that's very pulpy material in a palm frond, very soft, so it needs to be reinforced before it can be painted. And I do that using a mixture of DevCon 5-minute epoxy thinned with acetone and then painting that on the palm frond material. You can see that sheen. That's because I have a couple of coats of that thinned epoxy that I paint on both sides of the palm frond to really make kind of a hard shell around the frond. Then I started thinking about the base of the bird and how I was going to suspend it in flight. And I had a piece of brass tubing and an old coat hanger there, and started to think about creating a dogwood branch that would have a little curvature to it and kind of lend itself to the sculpture that I was creating. And then I created a small branch, you can see, with some wire and some stiff wire from a coat hanger and then some flexible wire to hold the pieces together, and began to form a structure that I could use to suspend the bird in flight and not take away from the bird. I constructed the feet of bendable aluminum wire and then some smaller steel wire to hold the pieces together, and you can see then I epoxied where I had wired the pieces together and formed the kind of the rigid structure that I could use. I could actually file the nails, and those became the sharp talons after I shaped them. And then I used epoxy sculpt, 2-part epoxy, to go over that wireframe structure, leaving the talons exposed, the aluminum talons, so that I could shape those and really sharpen those, and they would be strong. And then the rest of that became the shape of the legs of the bird. And then I did a little bit of sculpting, as you can see here. Now I've sharpened the exposed aluminum ends that became the talons, and then the rest of the foot structure I used some grinding equipment to just give a little bit of shape. These palm fronds are more interpretive than they are literal, so I didn't want to go overboard on the detail here, but I wanted them to be realistic looking when they were hanging from the palm frond. And there I've mounted those, and you can see they're kind of dragging behind as they would with a bird speeding on wing. You can also see I embedded a clothes hanger in the wing structure there of the bird, and I'm going to use that very stiff clothes hanger that goes deeply into the palm frond's structure itself, and then I epoxied that in place so it becomes the hanging point to suspend the bird in midair. And there you can see I'm just starting to get it all together. I've got a little bondo on the neck there. The head has been carved, and you can see the brass rod back there forming the basis of the dogwood branch. And this is a wintertime branch, so I didn't want any leaves on it. I just wanted it to be symbolic of a branch more than anything, and again, not take away from the carving itself. Originally I planned to paint that dogwood branch natural colors, but the more I looked at it, the more I worked with the composition, I ended up going with kind of a satin black, just so it was, again, kind of symbolic of a winter dogwood branch, but didn't want to mess around with a lot of detail on that part of I wanted the bird to be the star of the show, so to speak. But you can see this is a front view. I've got that clothes hanger wire inserted into the brass tube at that point, and that makes a nice way to suspend the bird in midair and really give it a feeling of airiness, like it is actually flying. This is from the other side. And I used a little of the epoxy sculpt around that brass tube and wire structure to create the upper part of the branch and also the buds on the branch. So the sculpture's coming together here, or the carving, and so the concept I'm really happy with. And you can see those cut portions where I'm going to simulate flight behind the bird. I'll show you that in a minute. Once I had the legs inserted, then I used a little body filler to blend those into the body underneath. And there again, you can see in this picture that DevCon epoxy that I painted on the bird and kind of reformed the hard shell underneath so that the bird can be painted. That material is very soft and spongy inside a palm frond. So now that I have it all together, this is the first time I get to see it primed, and I just prime coated everything. You can see I picked a nice piece of figured walnut for the base just to add to the artistic look of the piece. Give you another view of it from the opposite side. You can see I carved into the palm frond a little simulated airstream behind the bird in each of those pieces of the frond that are trailing the bird itself. And I worked with that wire insert into the brass tube to get the bird at an angle that I thought was pleasing. And this is the bird after it was painted, so I was able to use that reference that I had from the dead bird that I disposed of, and then you can see the kind of the trailing vapor trail behind the bird. to indicate some motion, movement, speed. This shows you a view of that of the bird as it hangs out in kind of open air, and the talons that are on the bottom there and trailing. So I ended up with kind of satin black on the branch, as I mentioned before. This shows the opposite side. Just beautiful colors on this bird. It was fun to get to know the bird better. I had never done a flicker before, so this was a first for me. And they are a beautiful bird. Here's just a little video from the show itself, and there you can see the bird on the judging table with the Best of Show ribbon. There's a couple of additional views from the table at the Ohio Decoy Show. The eyes, by the way, were just painted black. They were carved in, and then I used 2-part epoxy to put a nice sheen on the eyes rather than using glass eyes. Very happy with the results. I hope that's helpful and maybe inspiring to some.